In some senses, it might feel that way.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get you sworn in. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate in today's proceeding?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. Did you receive at least 7 days' notice of this hearing?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure the exact date I received the notice, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty close to that, 7 days.
Okay. All right. Now, we disclose the information that's in our file, information that we may be looking at when we make a decision. Sometimes that's called the blue packet. And that is done in order to give you a chance to respond, to make corrections, or to present your own side of things. So we have sent more disclosure to you. It's really just a couple letters that we've received since the last hearing. We didn't send you entire copies again. Have you received your disclosure?
I received a letter from the Cache County Attorney's Office.
Okay. Was that this morning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's when I got it as well.
Okay.
We do allow more time for that. Do you feel like you need more time to review that letter to respond?
No,
Or-
sir.
Okay.
I'm fine.
So you're fine to proceed today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And do you have any questions or concerns about your disclosure?
No, sir, I don't believe I do.
Okay. And I'll ask that as a repeat as well from anything that was disclosed previously. Do you have any questions or concerns?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me before we start?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. And again, I'm going to go through some questions that I have,
Okay.
kind of reviewing some things.
Okay.
Then we'll have a chance for Ms. Miller to speak, as well as there may be two of the other victims, the children, that want to speak. So we'll take time for that.
Okay.
And you'll have a chance to respond to anything that's said.
Okay.
So again, your sentence is 1 to 20 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the guideline is 38 months, which would have been December 12th last month.
That is correct.
Okay. So those guidelines are created by the Sentencing Commission. They take into account criminal history as well as the presenting offense and whether those offenses are sentenced concurrently or consecutively. And so, except for one, yours are concurrent, running at the same time. So it's a 15-year plus 5 gives you the 20. I'm not going to go through all those offenses in detail because that was already done at the last hearing. But I did have some questions as I listened to that.
Okay.
All right. At one point, you talked about making some of the contacts and you felt like you had good intentions, hopes,
Mhm.
and even some confusion in deciding to make those contacts. Tell me about that.
Okay, so first, how do you mean by some confusion in deciding to make the contacts?
At one point, the hearing officer asked you about the postcard.
Correct.
And basically the question was, why did you choose to send that?
Okay. And like I said, for me, when I got incarcerated,
Mhm.
I assumed, which wrong assumption,
Mhm.
that we were trying to work in a more positive manner, go forward. The morning that I was arrested, it seemed like things were, going well. So my confusion came not from clearly the orders that are given to me.
Mhm.
The orders were no contact. My confusion was I really did think that maybe there was still a chance for us. Wrong assumption on my part.
Okay.
At the time, I wasn't thinking that though. And in turn, I can see where definitely it would scare the crowd out of the victim.
Okay.
Like clearly this guy can't follow orders. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Okay.
So,
If you
had a lot
don't
of
look,
time think about that stuff, like, not good to do.
Okay. All right. And you said that there were a lot of triggers involved in your behavior. Tell me about the triggers that you think contribute to that.
So as I've been incarcerated here, part of my, incarceration included doing the program. In that, I learned about like, different parts of myself, like triggers,
Mhm.
what those entail, things that could lead to a risky situation, right? Or an action for me to engage in that.
Mhm.
I didn't know a lot about myself at that point in the relationship, or any prior for that matter. Um, so with triggers, I learned that I've lived most of my life in fear. And so I think when I felt like I was in harm myself, it engaged a behavior that was not appropriate. Um, and so those are some of the triggers. Like I was scared myself,
Mhm.
and I'm not at all projecting that on the victim. That is my own issues that I didn't understand that I even had going on. Um, Coming here was, I'm not going to say I like being here. I am grateful for being here because of that fact that I had the opportunity to face what's going on inside of me. And I felt like that was important.
All right. So you've talked about some of those triggers that maybe increase your risk or that create a situation that's harder.
Mhm.
How would you mitigate those triggers? How would you manage those
Are you talking about then or now?
now?
Okay, now, I've been given, a plethora of coping skills to, manage that. I think the first thing is, honestly, we can all get triggered in ways.
Mhm.
Am I understanding where you're coming from? I think that's the biggest part. I need to learn to validate your concern, validate or have an understanding, be more empathetic.
Mhm.
And if I can remove myself from just myself and learn to look at it from a different perspective, that gives me room for growth. It gives me room to where I can respond in a more appropriate manner instead of reacting to a situation.
Okay.
The reaction is what's going to get a lot of people in trouble, myself.
Okay.
So if I really stop and I use my skills that I'm learning, um, and that I have to use daily in here, you've got to use these skills nonstop.
Yeah.
And again, that's something to be grateful for. If I can make it through this, the challenges on the outside, I don't think will be anything compared to prison.
Okay. And, you know, as you bring that up, just move to institutional behavior
Okay.
where you don't have any negative write-ups, which, as you point out, can be difficult to maintain here.
Sir?
And you said you're having to use some of these skills every day.
Yes, sir.
So I believe that's the case. And again, I appreciate that you don't have any write-ups, but tell me more about how do you actually avoid getting any write-ups or having issues like that?
I believe that my parents raised me in a manner that I am a responsible individual. Um, I've made poor choices along the way. I am not going to deny any of that. I've done a lot of wrongs. Um, there is a good man inside of me. I am a good man. And so with all that, when I'm presented with situations here, um, I've had a little bit of different therapy prior. So I know about like breathing. Sometimes you've got to breathe.
Breathing.
Sometimes you can walk away from something.
I'm not sure what he
In
did.
here, taking something head on is definitely not going to be the way to go. And that actually applies to real life as well. Taking something head on is not the best way to go. We need to sometimes take a break for a minute. And then, is it worth it? Now, I know that in here, sometimes things are just on the split second scenario. Avoiding things for me in here
Tybee, thank you for the
have
like.
been easy but difficult. And with that, the way I mean that is my circumstances brought me here. Okay, my poor choices. So keeping that in mind,
Not sure what he did.
in
Haven't said yet.
here, I want to make those good choices. I want to show that change is possible. I want this change. I don't want anybody to go through anything that we've gone through. And so I think by starting with me and making a choice every day that leads to a more productive life, whether it's in here or out there, that's the path I'm going to stay on. I've taken other classes. I took a yoga instructor's course, 200 hours. That's the breakdown of so much. It's amazing. People think it was just stretches. That's what I thought. Oh yeah, there's a lot more to that. Teaches you how to have a lot of different coping mechanisms, inner peace, different ways to breathe, different tensions and how to deal with that. I've taken Captain Your Story. That's a wonderful course. It taught me that this is the way I was operating. You know, they have a circle that it's a great diagram. A lot of us operate this way, and instead we need to operate in a different way. So like, if I want to be what I want to be, I got to visualize that first. Like a good dad, I got to visualize that. I got to see myself being there. And then would a dad, a really good dad, show up in the manner that I showed up? Oh, sorry, you wouldn't. So keeping those principles in mind every day and practicing it every day. That's what's led me to where I sit in front of you today.
Okay. All right. And there were a number of other course completions as well.
Yes, sir.
You've told me about Captaining Your Story. Substance abuse or substance use was part of that. Tell me about that treatment program.
It's a really good program. It's an extensive program. I completed 11-month pre-treatment. And I believe that's when the program wasn't even up and running at that point. Still a really good insight and preparation to getting into the actual program itself. Once in the program, we did CBIs, we did one-on-one therapies, one-on-one sessions with therapists, where we would definitely unpack what's going on with us. And you know, honestly, that's where I figured out that what I'm dealing with, honestly, it has nothing to do with the victim or the kids. I projected it all on them. But it was my own fears that I projected onto them. Is that fair? No, not at all. It's because of the courage that she had to stand up and say enough is enough, that it helped put me into a place that I could get help. I had too much pride, too big of an ego, and honestly, again, I was scared to ask for help, knowing I needed it. So being here, I can say that I am grateful to her for standing up. It took a lot of courage. I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. And while in prison, there are some opportunities for jobs or,
Yes, sir.
or employment. Tell me how that went for you.
It went well. When I first moved to Green, so I made the big move from Draper to here. After that, I spent a little bit of time in Bear. Then they moved me to Green. Once in Green, I became an education lead within the program. After that, I moved to a peer lead position. I held that. I worked over at the plate plant for UCI. I did that for, I think, 4 or 5 months until they restarted the program. I became a peer lead again. And then now I still work for the whole unit of Green. I do the laundry work. I'm a laundry worker within the building.
A laundry boy.
And I really, all aspects of it, I mean, aside from the peer lead, dealing with 64 different personalities can be very challenging.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to change. I've noticed this.
Yeah.
All the jobs I've had, though, have had their rewards. I know my laundry job right now, I really do enjoy. I can get out and I interact with inmates. I interact with officers. And the officers put a lot of trust in me to do the job that I do. They trust that I'm going to do everything right.
Is that right?
And I don't have any ill intentions out there.
And they made a good report about you. No referrals to the Offender Management Review Board, no negative C notes. So those really are positive reports.
Lisa, this is a Utah parole.
There's an
hearing.
assessment that they do when you arrive. They do it periodically, the LSRNR, and they put together a case action plan.
Yes, sir.
They haven't
for
said
you.
what he did
So
yet.
have you seen that?
Yeah, I was actually a part in making that.
So we're
Okay,
waiting
tell me
right
about
now.
that.
Okay. So when I first got to prison, I was aware, well, we did at first, the women for the program did an assessment, obviously for the drug and substance use. And then after that, I sat with a caseworker and I went over like all the things that I felt like I really needed to work on, which was parenting, spouse, like relationships, communication, definitely learning to come out of my own little box, which I'm really good at being in. And I don't really want to be in that. Sometimes interacting with people is super beneficial.
Yeah.
There was a lot that I knew I needed to work on. And one of the bigger things I know I needed to work on was like
I'm not sure what he
learning
did
to
yet.
see things in a whole different perspective, not just mine, because mine is flawed. So with that, sitting down, after going over that, we put me in Inside Out Dad, something that I opted to take. Victim impact. There was a course I took. I took Kindness Matters, which it's recorded on O-Track. However, it's not part of your CAL. I took that twice. I got my facilitator certificate for that. I can teach that now. I've taken anger management.
Yep.
I started over in Bears. They
Parole
moved me to
hearing.
Green. So I finished that in Green.
Welcome, Cha-Cha.
And then we had to take it again in the program.
Thank you, Juan.
Gosh, there's so many classes. Oh, Thinking for a Change was another wonderful one. That one there, the Thinking for a Change, I feel like really helped prep me for
This is live,
the
Cha-Cha.
program. I would say probably the most, because the skills that you have to use in Thinking for a Change are very similar to what you learn in the program. The CBI that you learn, like managing your anger, stress or anxiety. I'm sure you know a lot of the skills. So
Yeah, that's why he's not in prison. He knows him.
And good. That's what I have in the reports as well. And speaking of that assessment, the last assessment said that you were moderate risk.
okay.
Just to explain a little bit of that. So the assessment has different domains that are considered risks for people,
Sure.
from substance, drugs to how you think and feel about the world, various domains there. And you've reduced pretty much all of them to low, except for companions, which is very high. And it tends to stay that way because when you're in prison, everybody around has a felony record. So
Sure.
Yup.
that's really static. It's hard to change that risk area.
It's impossible
The
to
other one
change.
is criminal history, which is also static. You have a poor criminal history and it's going to stay high.
Yes, sir.
Obviously not getting new offenses, but that doesn't change criminal history. It's static.
That's correct.
So again, that's a positive assessment that shows a significant reduction in risk. And so you're saying you had a chance to see that?
Yes, as far as my assessment, I have seen, and it was explained to me, the drop.
Okay.
And my case manager did go over those two same factors, as a matter of fact, as to if you're getting in a relationship in here,
In there.
that's a little odd.
What the what?
So yeah, that's probably not going to change at all while you're in here, unless for some reason you are in a romantic relationship when you came in here. So if you
Wait,
have
what?
you're married or what have you not.
Well, the
That's what I'm
family
saying.
marital domain is low
Okay.
for you. And again, just by explanation, that tends to be a larger scope of that. Companions is basically who you're hanging out with.
Oh, okay.
And-
I'm sorry.
Again, you really don't have an opportunity to hang out with anybody else while you're in here.
No, we have to hang out pretty much with what we're given.
Yeah, so that's very high, and it's going to stay that way perhaps until you're released.
And I try to spend a lot of time with officers.
What?
To try to, I don't want to fall into the mentality that you see in a prison.
I don't think you'll be
That's
falling
it's
into anything.
not a good mentality. A lot of people are hanging on to a woe is me. I don't want that. I want to grow. I want to keep making changes in my life. And I'm hoping by doing so, there could be an impact for somebody else to make a difference or a change,
Okay.
make positive changes. When I heard about this hearing, I was, my initial reaction was anxiety. Then I stopped and I thought about it, because I read the note that was left on there as far as the victim was not made aware of the original hearing. There was no current address so after I read that, I could only imagine the thought that ran through her head, right? She gets my
her.
date, but I'm getting released.
Right.
Nothing but sheer fear, I'm sure.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what I've been doing in here. For all she knows, I could have been sitting in here figuring out ways to get back. I
I'm
spent
sure
the
you did.
past almost 3.5 years figuring out ways that I can grow. I can make amends. Now, I can't make amends to them directly, but I can do it through other ways. I would say her concern was very valid, and that's what brought us here today. And for me to want to minimize or brush something like that off, that doesn't show any growth on my part. So I'm here because I need to grow. So whatever is said, I'm going to take that, use it for more growth, because that's what I need to do.
Okay.
I don't want to be that person I was.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's move forward to what Ms. Miller might want to say.
Okay.
Ms. Miller, are you there?
The victim.
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. I need to swear you in. Would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes,
Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate in today's proceeding?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down, and you're welcome to keep your camera off or keep it on. That's your choice.
Okay.
Please state your name for the record.
Kristen Miller.
Okay. What would you like us to understand in this case?
Well, I had quite a bit written out, but I'm going to let you in on some things that have been brought up just during this hearing and during the last one that I feel like are important for you to know. So, the first is that Paul has an innate way of molding himself into whatever you think or he thinks you want him to be.
A manipulator. A
He
chameleon.
is true master narcissist. The detective on our case explained to me that, and he's an SVU detective, that Paul was the worst manipulator and narcissist that he'd ever experienced in his career.
Special Victims Unit.
Paul has undergone cognitive and dialectical therapy throughout the many years that he was not incarcerated prior to prison. Believe me, it was quite literally beat into my head. He was he was given an anger management course during our relationship after he was charged with his first domestic violence crime against me. And he forced me to take it with him, sir, because I was truly the problem. Damn. In the way that he described, removing himself from a situation so that he can try to be empathetic or understand. There was this theory that he continually discussed with my children and I, and that was being able to remove yourself from the train and put yourself up on a mountain and view from the outside in and remove yourself from the situation in order to be able to see it from an outside point of view. Things that he's discussing as forms of therapy for him that have worked all of a sudden because he's gone through prison are things that these are coping skills and mechanisms that he had already had, sir, prior to being incarcerated. I was pretty honest in my letter. I'm not surprised by his lack of negative write-ups, because
He's a
quite
weenie.
frankly, sir, he preys on women and children,
Oh.
not other men, not men who could harm him back. I have, in multiple situations, seen Paul cower down from men. While he had absolutely no problem, and after enough therapy and information between psychiatrists, therapists, and psychologists at this point, I've learned that his behavior towards us was more that of a person who is not in a manic episode, but he's calculated and sadistic.
You called it, Tabby.
He brought up in his previous hearing that he doesn't have a control issue. I was not allowed to leave my bed in the morning to take my children to school if he was not awake. Someone who is projecting fears and doesn't feel like they need to be in control, doesn't close all the windows and shut all of the blinds and lock all of the doors before he begins to destroy you physically, emotionally, before he destroys your children. This man had all of these resources prior to our relationship, and he still chose to destroy us. I quite literally watched the light leave my children's eyes. there were so many times where, I mean, it was never, I was always, whatever the root was, I was always the root problem, or the kids were always the root problem. And kind of going through all of this, I've had to relive a lot of the things that I haven't touched in a long time. Like, I feel like I just began to pick up the pieces, you know, and there are things that are coming up now. And I was driving to church yesterday morning, and it was just me and my 3-year-old in the truck. And I had to pull over on the side of the road because I was going in through my head like what I would talk about today and the things that I would do. But the thing that I will say to you is, I don't know if you have children, but there were many, many nights where I was forced to take a sleeping pill, Seroquel, which is not diagnosed to me or prescribed to me. It's prescribed to Paul, or it was at least at the time. And my son would still be outside with Paul. And so I couldn't control whether or not I fell asleep, but I was scared to death that when I woke up, my son would be dead. And whether it was from Paul killing him, from starvation or exhaustion, or just beating him to death, or if it came from my son committing suicide because he was tired of living that life. Either way, I couldn't control that I fell asleep, but all I could fall asleep thinking about was that my son would be dead when I woke up. There was a point before Paul got arrested that I had contended that I would have to commit suicide to get my children out of that situation. I felt like that was the only way out. And my son was strong enough to talk to someone about what we were experiencing in our home. A strength that I didn't have. And again, the thought of losing my son to suicide is the only thing that drove me to tell the truth when I was called in. And this because I knew that if I called my son a liar, if I told them that my son was lying, like I had so many times, I'd covered for Paul, I defended him, I tried to justify his behavior, or I would flat lie to the police about what he'd done to keep him from getting in trouble. I knew if I called my son a liar, he would either commit suicide or he would eventually grow up and never, ever speak to me again, and rightfully so.
You're supposed to protect them.
So, again, the no negative write-ups, it's not surprising to me. He talked about walking away. Paul always could walk away. He always had the ability to walk away.
I gotta start the stream over on TikTok.
We couldn't walk away from the situation. We had to deal with it in the time in which he wanted to deal with it. So he always had that choice.
If you don't look...
You know, you said his last assessment, he was considered a moderate risk because of his companionship and criminal history. And I want to talk about a little bit of his criminal history for just a second, to which it pertains to my fears and in which it pertains to, I feel like, what's relevant for him in his actions and what I'm scared of repeating. So after he was arrested,
Thank you for sharing, Tabby.
He quickly found out that I guess he was arrested on a Friday night.
Thank you for the like, Sean.
For a violation of probation. And he was held on a 72-hour hold. And then he was charged with these other crimes on that following Monday morning. He was arrested on a Friday evening around 7 p.m. The following Monday morning, I had to meet a detective at it's like the Justice Center, where they interviewed my children and they interviewed me to figure out what steps to take next in the case. Paul was aware that there was a child abuse case being investigated.
KC.
So he had not been violent with us for a couple of weeks because he knew that we were under a microscope.
Thank you for that, Heart.
Once he found out his charges, he called and he proposed to me on the phone.
What?
The first time that he proposed to me in our, I don't know if what, 4.5, almost 5-year relationship, he proposed to me on the phone. And the only reason that makes any sense to me, sir, is because he felt like as his wife, I wouldn't have to testify.
That was a calculated
When
move.
that also occurred, when they went in to talk to him about his charges, he attempted to flip the script and that I was the abusive one. There was a scratch on his arm that came from, he was strangling me, and I keep my nails done. And he was strangling me, and I was trying to pull his arm away from my neck, and I scratched him. And he wanted to file assault charges on me for the permanent damage that I did to his arm while he was strangling me.
What a POS.
He was aware within 6 days of his arrest, and I honestly think it was sooner than that, but I'm not, I don't know for sure, but that I was uninterested in continuing my relationship with him when he proposed to me. I explained to him no, and that I was done with him, and I was done with this relationship, and that I didn't want anything to do with him.
Smart move.
Okay.
Best move probably ever made.
That he needed help, and that I needed to protect my children and I. That would have been in October of 2021. In January of 2022 is when he received his stalking charges, because he used my credit and my bank records in order to stalk me and try to figure out where I was going, because I was attempting to flee the state at the advice of the district attorney's office, because frankly, they were all convinced that he was going to kill me and my kids. So I left the state of Utah in January, and I was in Missouri on my trip to where I was going, and I got a call from the DA's office and asked me what account I was using, because Paul and his dad were actively discussing on the phone where I was at.
Oh.
The detective was listening to them in real time talk about where I was located, where they thought I was going. And since the announcement of Paul's release, within a day or two, someone attempted to reset the password of my Credit Karma account. It wasn't me. And that is an account that I only had because of Paul. I actually hadn't touched that account or gone into that account in a couple years. And I had no need to reset my password. All of my stuff is on Face ID on my phone. I had completely forgotten I'd even had it, to be honest with you. I pull my credit reports annually, like through TransUnion and Equifax and Experian.
Free Union. Free
on Friday night,
account.
Paul's daughter followed me on Instagram on my old business account and my personal account using her business account. All of these actions are congruent with actions that he was taking and making while receiving these stalking charges. I can provide screenshots and proof of all of this to you. I can't speak. I won't speculate as to what Katie's reasoning was. I don't know if they have a relationship or they don't have a relationship, but I do know in the past, it was communicated to me through the detectives and the DA's office that he does attempt to use Katie as a form of communication and manipulation. Which makes me really sad because I would love to be able to separate those relationships. He stated that he has no ill intent out here. He also stated that he had no ill intent when he broke protective orders, and that he had no ill intent during our relationship and his actions afterwards. And I firmly believe that the road to hell is paved in good intentions. There were other things said in his hearing that indicate to me that he has some idea of where I'm at and what I'm doing. I don't want to touch on them because if they happen to be coincidental, I don't want to give any additional information. I do know that there's a gentleman at the prison looking into his records, his call records and his search records and things like that to verify, but I had not been able to get into, he had not returned my call prior to Friday afternoon or this morning. Ways that this has impacted our lives.
It's not easy.
Every single facet of our lives have impacted ways that I didn't even imagine. I hope that me saying this does not upset my son or my daughter or anyone else, but because we don't want him to know how much effect he still has on us, right? Because that's, to someone who's sadistic and twisted, that's a win. And he didn't win because we're alive and we're healthy and we're happy. But we lost every bit of ourselves during my relationship with Paul. I drug my kids through hell during my relationship with Paul. My son, my oldest son, didn't want anything to do with a lifestyle that he loved. When we finally got out of that situation, it took a year of learning who he was on his own to come back to things that he loved and enjoyed doing prior to having Paul in his life. My son didn't want anything to do with cowboying. That's all he ever wanted to be, was a cowboy and then a Navy pilot. He no longer wants to be a Navy pilot. I think he lost respect for the Navy a little bit. But he didn't want anything to do with cowboying. Thankfully, he's been able to find himself since then and figure out what it is that he loves and what he likes. And again, I'm not going to comment on things that will bring any kind of potential knowledge to Paul, but even after he was incarcerated and even after he was in prison, he still almost killed my son. My son still almost committed suicide. And it is 100% attributed to the PTSD from my relationship with Paul. Every therapist that we talked to, every psychiatrist, every doctor that we spoke to, it was the same. And there were approximately 6 doctors I couldn't even begin to count the number of therapists that we've encountered. Because when you walk away from a relationship with someone like that, even during the relationship, I wondered if I truly was the problem, if I truly was a narcissist, if I truly was the issue, if my son was just doing this for attention, if he was a narcissist. And everybody says no. Everybody said no. This is caused by the abuse that this man brought to my children. My daughter was the brightest light, and she is closed off and guarded, and rightfully so. Why would she want to invite someone into her life to hurt her? It has taken this long to come as far as we came, and we're still not there yet. And I'm glad, truly, that Paul is seeking treatment within the facilities. Some of it court mandated. But I don't think, truthfully, that he's encountered anything that he hasn't already told us that he's encountered as far as therapy goes. There's two more things that he discussed that I want to bring up. And that's what the last, and I don't know what the correct terminology is, if it's hearing officer, brought up, but that was, she asked him if he has issues with women. And he said, no, he doesn't have issues with women. And I would argue that because we are his prey. Sir, I'm not the first. I'm not even the fifth. I'm just the fourth that he received charges with.
Damn.
I am the one that tolerated it the longest. I am the one that is certain that heaven is real because I have hung in the cusp of life and death while he strangled me in front of my children. I am the one who finally did not go to bat for him and say, hey, what I said wasn't true, or I want the charges lessened because it's not his fault. He has a disorder. But sir, bipolar disorder indicates that he would be out of control, which is the other thing she asked him about, was if he had control issues. Would indicate bipolar and a manic episode would indicate that he's out of control. And I'm sorry, but control does not ensure that no one can hear our screams. Control does not pretend like in public we're the greatest thing on the face of the planet and behind closed doors. Beat us so badly that we have to tell people we were kicked in the face by a horse. Control, or bipolar, excuse me,
It is
does
very
not
sad.
isolate you from your family and friends, and it doesn't do all of these things that require calculation. It would indicate a moment or an amount of time where you're out of control due to a manic episode.
So
These were not manic episodes.
He's already
This
in
was our
prison.
life for 4.5 years. This was our life. I don't know if you read in the file or not when the abuse began, the physical abuse began, but it was the week that my father died. And what that file doesn't tell you is that the previous September, my dad flew out unannounced to Utah from Florida because he knew something was wrong. Because he knew that we were isolated. He knew that I wasn't communicating with him as often as I should, or that I did. my kids didn't get their presents from my dad for months. Like, their Christmas presents sat until Easter because I wasn't allowed to go pick them up because my dad had the control issue that he forced us to go. He wanted us to sign for him because they were expensive. They were expensive gifts. It was a huge box. But my dad had the control issue, and my mom had the control issue, and I had the control issues, and my kids had it. They were the issues, or everybody else was the issue. Thank you. And I'm hearing him today say that he's accepting responsibility, and he's realizing these things, but I also know him to say those things because it's what he wants. He thinks you want to hear. I know how he works, and I know how twisted and manipulative he is because I've watched it in action. I've lived with him. And this man is not caring, and he's not responsible, and he's not loving, and he's not a good man. He's evil, and he's sadistic. He's a monster. And like I said in my letter, I didn't protect my children the way that I should have. And I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that person anymore.
This is a board of parole hearing.
And I wasn't that person when he met me. It took a lot of time and manipulation. And I won't go into all the details of all of this abuse. And I mean, I'm sure I know that you've read it. And I will say that the charges that he faced were just a handful of times.
They might.
And something that happened over and over and over again for years. Okay. But what I will say is the abuse started the week my father died. And the reason that it started was because of me, because of the way that I handled my father's death. And when I say that, it's not because I mean it. It's because that's what was told to me. That the reason that the physical abuse started was because I was mourning my father's death.
What a sack of...
This man took away relationships with my family in time that I'll never get back. After Paul was incarcerated, it took me a little while to learn to trust myself and to trust other people around me. So,
welcome, Breezy.
It was October of 2021 when he was arrested. It was December of 2021 when I allowed contact from my mom.
Thank you for the follow.
My mom only got to meet my son, my youngest son, once before she died. Those were 4.5 years with my mom that I'll never get back. And we were close. We were close.
Jazzy, thank you.
Thank you. There are things that he took from us we'll never ever get back.
Yeah, so
there
far.
are things. My mom was close with my children, and she was before she passed. We were all very close again. But there's just 4.5 years of their upbringing, of their childhood, of their lives that'll never be returned. And I'm sorry, 3.5 years isn't long enough. It's just not. It's not long enough. And this doesn't give me the opportunity to protect my children from him, because he's proven that protective order means nothing. Laws mean nothing. me asking him to stop meant nothing. My kids pleading and begging for him to stop meant nothing. And I'm sorry, sir, but what you guys hand down to him will mean nothing. I think that, he brought up that he wants to make amends. And I think he slipped a little bit because he immediately started to kind of backpedal a little bit, but there is no amends that can be made. There's no fix. And I wouldn't even want him to try, but my fear is that he would.
Hey, KC. This is live, yes.
The last thing that I want to say, and then I'm gonna stop because I feel like at this point I'm just rambling. But the last thing that he brought up in his hearing was that she asked kind of what his issues stemmed from, and he said that he was bullied as a child. And I find that really ironic because he became the biggest bully as an adult to children.
This is not on TV.
He does have control issues, and he does have issues with women. And I think that they stem back to his mother. And I mean, he wants women that he's with to wear the same perfume his mother wore or wears. He has issues with women. He has control issues. And him denying those issues in that hearing told me that we haven't scratched the surface on the amount of work that he needs to do in order to truly change. Truly.
What's up, my life peachy?
I guess, I mean, I gave you a small example in my letter of like how unaccepting of responsibility he is, but the other side of that is that, I just really want to tell you a way that he will twist his actions onto his victims. And that's, this just popped in my brain, but there was several times in our relationship where he would cut his own arms.
What up, primo?
But he would force the kids and I to watch him cut his arms, telling us that if he did that, he hurt himself so he wouldn't have to hurt us. And then he still beat the crap out of us. But that is how mentally twisted he becomes. That is how much mental warfare there is. You make an 8, 9-year-old watch you slice your arm open and tell them that it's so that you don't hurt them. Why would you ever have the desire to hurt an 8 or 9-year-old that badly? And then my son began cutting his arms because he thought that that was the way that you were supposed to relieve stress and anger. And then ironically, Paul got upset with him for doing that himself. So I'm gonna stop here. I'll give my children the opportunity to speak and be heard in anything that they have to say. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity and listening.
Thank you for the follow, Touchy. Or Torchy.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Miller.
So this is live. This is a live border parole hearing from the state of Utah. This is actually happening in real time.
So if your children would like to speak, that's fine. Again, they don't need to be on camera.
Okay.
They're minors.
Yep.
But I'll need to swear them in and put their name on the record as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Arizona is going to speak first.
Okay. Arizona, will you raise your right hand, please?
We're just switching seats.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Paul, he's probably fake crying in the
Okay,
background.
Arizona, do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate today?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. Please state your name for the record.
Arizona Vocalo.
Okay. What would you like us to understand as we make this decision?
That he is very harmful to children and women. It doesn't matter their age. I have a letter here that I would like to read. The first year was good. There was fighting, but nothing more. It wasn't until a couple of months after we moved to Logan, Utah. I was 9 when everything started. The first major thing that happened was my older brother and I had went to bed. It was summer. My mom and Paul were fighting in the backyard. There was a small window above my bed, so I looked outside, and my mom was sitting in the chair. She was, Paul was leaning over from the back, choking her. I remember yelling out the window for him to stop. I can't remember if he was drunk or not. He probably, I'm sorry. It's okay. Yeah. The punishments got worse. It started with the occasional grounding and spanking with hand, timeouts, and it got worse. Timeouts turned into having to do push-ups, wall sits, mountain climbers, swimmers, walking up and down stairs with backpacks full of cinder blocks until at least 4 a.m. Grounding started the same, except everything was taken. Including our beds, clothing that he had bought, spankings with the hand turned into belts, and wooden spoons, which would bruise both my brother and I up and down the thighs until black and purple. Damn. Or until we couldn't sit. There was a time he'd smashed in the back window of my mom's car, convinced us that my brother did it with a baseball, but he never had picked up a baseball that week. He punched my mom in the face and gave her a black eye and pulled a golf ball-sized chunk out of her head of hair.
What?
Out of her head. She had to tell the people who replaced the window that she had gotten kicked by a horse. At this time, he was a horseshoer. He would make one of us go with him to make sure that no matter what, we couldn't leave. Well, we were there. He would, no matter the condition outside, he would make us stand outside and couldn't sit. There were so many holidays that were spent working out or in trouble. Also, if we missed one single spot while cleaning, we would have to completely redo the entire room. We had to frequently scrub the walls and the floors with our hands. We were not allowed to use a mop. We had to use a rag and a bucket. My hands dried up so much that my skin would split, and every time I would close or open my hands, they would split even more. He consistently broke things that were important to us or having meaning to us, just to punish us. This man never sought therapy. He went to AA and started drinking again heavily, like 30 beers a day right after. Not only in 2021, it was around Christmas season. At this time, his daughter Caitlin lived with us. One night, she had gotten to go to bed because she said that she hadn't done something. Someone had spilled oil on the driveway in the back corner. I still don't know who did it, but I took the fall for it. Lane and I both stood there in the living room until 2 or 3 a.m. while he slept in and out and all night. I was tired of standing and I was ready for bed, so I took the fall. So a couple days later, he made me eat a whole white onion. It burned my mouth so much I couldn't eat or talk. I had to scrub the concrete with a toothbrush until there was no oil there. There were many days and nights that both Lane and I
didn't eat or drink anything. He also locked all the cabinets and put cameras around the place. Anything that we did was watched, no matter what. There was Christmas that I had to stay up all night for punishment. I had to do exercises all night and day.
This guy needs to go on a wood chipper feet first.
He also tried. Oh, wait, no, not that one. I wasn't allowed to open my presents until 2 days after Christmas, and I had to give all my presents back. He also tried to propose from jail. He said the reason I was drinking a lot was because I was nervous I was going to propose. I wasn't allowed to open. Oh wait, no, not that one. How did he get that? Okay.
Strong little girl right there. They better
It
not
was
let him
summer.
out.
I was in my room. My brother, my mom, and my little brother Casey and Paul were in the backyard. There was a shop in the back. It had an old truck in it without a bed on it. I was in my room and he was drunk and had Lane's head in his hand. If I didn't go to the neighbors, Lane's head would have been in that truck with blood everywhere. The only thing that helped my mom, she was holding Casey. This man changed me and took my childhood away. Not only do I not go every day without thinking of things in my head, I no longer trust people that I don't know. My mom has a fiance. It took me a year and a half to even remotely have a real conversation with him. He also stalked us while we tried to leave the state. He tried to track us, but he could find us again. That's my letter.
I couldn't make it out. Yeah, it's she's getting emotional and rightfully so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arizona.
So this is a board of parole hearing out of
So is Lane
Utah.
going to speak?
Yes, he's coming.
Okay.
So we're just waiting for the next victim to come up. So far, two victims spoke already. His ex-wife, and I don't think that these are his kids.
Okay, Lane, will you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate today?
He's a board
I swear.
member.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. What would you like us to know?
That it would be unsafe for my family and I if he was released.
You can read. You can do whatever.
So it will always be a reminder of, unfortunately, my entire childhood. I can't remember really anything before that because memory takes up everything. I can remember on multiple occasions my punishment from stealing food because I was essentially starving. Usually, like 4 or 5 things. So I'd be spanked, but it wasn't your usual like spanking. It went from my lower back to like my upper thigh, and it was with like a metal studded leather belt, and it would range from 10 to 30. Or I'd work outside, whether it was 98 degrees or 22 degrees, it wouldn't matter. I'd spend days with minimal water, of which I had to steal, no food. I wasn't allowed inside or to stray away from my task, and often would hallucinate on nights that I wasn't allowed to sleep. Or I'd have to clean the house.
Welcome, Izzy.
Remember scrubbing an entire kitchen with a toothbrush and rag,
Thank you for the
just because
follow.
it was one of my chores. One time I didn't clean the bathroom properly, and my punishment for it was my toothbrush was wiped on the toilet, and then I was forced to brush my teeth with it.
Oh, that's awful.
Another punishment I remember from this was like year 2 or 3 was I had to sit with my back to the TV in the living room on Christmas while the rest of my family was watching Christmas movies and copy the entire dictionary onto a notebook. And I had to sit Indian style and wasn't able to move whatsoever. Even today, I can't sit certain ways without intense knee pain. I'd also have to eat multiple raw cloves of garlic. And then he liked to joke that I wasn't a vampire, because he thought it was funny. During this time, I didn't even know where I was around the 3rd night because of the lack of sleep. There was another time that my sister mentioned that I had to carry cinder blocks in a backpack, walk up and down the stairs, them for hours. And then, so how it worked is you'd walk all the way up the stairs and then down, and it'd be 1, and we'd do 400 or so. There's around 28 steps or maybe 30. I can still remember that. And I did these so much all weekend that when I came back to school on Monday, one of my friends in the class told me I had lost so much weight, and I was already had a small frame and was already a smaller person. And this was in 3rd grade.
3rd grade.
Damn. I do remember when my sister was talking about that my mom was sitting in the shop with my little brother, and then said something. I think my mom told me to run, and he snatched me by my upper arm and like pulled me close to make sure I couldn't go anywhere. And then told my mom the only reason he didn't kill her is because he was holding my little brother. I remember also a time where there's a fencing company, and I was one of the only employees as a minor. I wasn't paid. I rarely got to eat or drink. I would be digging 4-foot holes all day, and my reward was a peanut butter sandwich, usually, if I got lucky. That's the end of my statement.
Okay, thank you, Lane. Mr. Wayman, what's your response to this?
Let's see Paul's face. What was his name? Wayman? Did anybody catch his name?
I'm not going to deny that at all.
I'm gonna look him
And
up.
whether it's, like I said, believed or not,
There he is.
I have so many regrets, a lot of sorrow. Any concern that they would have is a completely valid concern, given the history. Definitely, I loved him unconditionally, and that's definitely not what I showed.
I found
Definitely
it.
not. I have also worked to try to move past some of the labels that go with this. The terminology monster was used. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've called myself that. There was a time, I can't remember if it was before or after, they had gone to see their biological father down in Las Vegas. They came back. And 100% honest,
Yeah,
I
right.
looked at them and I called them both POS. Those are words I should have been saying to myself.
Come on, Paul. All of a sudden, can't talk anymore. Out of words.
Their perception of everything is is valid. I cannot take that away from them. I can only sit here today and say that moving forward, my whole goal is to make sure nothing like this ever happens again. Miss Miller is not inaccurate, and it's like I've stated to you, I have seen therapy before. The problem with that was accepting that I had a problem. They asked for a conversation one time. It was after an incident, a domestic violence incident. They'd left, they went to CAPSA, I remember. Kristen wanted to sit down at the table with the kids and have a conversation. Honestly, that is a conversation I wish that we could have had. May have changed the fact on whether or not I'm sitting here today.
Highly unlikely.
Really, we didn't have that conversation because I was afraid of exactly everything I just heard today. I was afraid of everything. It was brought up about altercations with females. I've been in physical altercations with men as well. My father being one of them. Twice.
I don't believe him. I was a liar.
My uncle being one. Plus other fights with school or outside.
Come on, we're not talking about kindergarten fights here.
Because I react before I think.
I react. Come on, knock it off.
There were a lot of times, yes, there was a lot of difficulty.
Yeah, he's
Extreme
trauma
difficulty.
dumping.
Nothing that I can sit here and tell you I'm proud of. Every bit of it, I wish I could go back and change. I cannot. As far as it was brought up about my daughter and Instagram, that's the first I'm hearing about this. And by all means, I would love for the prison to check the records on that. I would definitely appreciate that looked into. The Credit Karma account, again, I would love that as well looked into. I have no desire to know where they're at. None. I wish that they would move on in their life as well. That's what my hope is for them. And I understand that there are struggles involved in that. I fully understand that. Given all the circumstances that they went through. I want them to be happy. I want the best for them. It's something I did not give them. They meant the world to me. And like I stated, I definitely did not show that. And yes, like I stated, I would like to make amends. That is nothing I can do. I can do it though, through other methods, that being through what I show. If you guys were to release me, it would be through my own actions, and over a course of time, would that ever be shown? That I can see what I'd done and the errors, and that changing it is the way to rectify that. Words only go so far. I told the other board representative, I can tell you anything. You
Board report or
guys
hearing.
see numerous inmates daily.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I could tell you anything.
Do you guys think they should let him out? What do you guys
But those
think?
words don't mean anything unless I show you that I mean. And I hear a lot of the guys back in the section after they've seen the board, how important it was for them to tell you what they thought you wanted to hear. I can't tell you what I think you want to hear. I can show you what you guys want to see, and that's all I can do. I do understand their fears. I'm going to take everything that they had to say and grow from there. It wasn't easy to sit and listen to that. Just like I'm sure it wasn't easy to be with me.
Yeah. Sorry for the inconvenience, buddy.
I do suffer from a mental disorder. However, I'm not going to sit here and make that my excuse. I drank a lot for a short amount of time. I'm not going to make that my excuse. I had a choice to drink. The beer didn't sit there and say, well, you need to drink me. No, I chose to do that. With my mental illness, we talk about manic episodes. Manic episodes are what they are. They're, you do things impulsively. However, with that being said, that's still not an excuse. This is something that I was diagnosed with at 25 years of age. They caught it when I was 15. They didn't start treating me until I was 25. So with that, I'm going to honestly say I should have been in better check of myself. And going over the therapy, instead of treating it like
He is a liar.
just tools that I'm given to use whenever. I should have taken it as, look, these are real things. Miss Miller's right. I have given that example of if you are, let's just say, having a disagreement with somebody. It's like what you and I discussed. If we're having a disagreement. If I were to remove myself and put myself up on the hill, right, look down inside that train, would I still look at that situation the same way? And it could be like just me sitting here today talking to you. I explained that in the very beginning. At first, I was super anxious. I knew what it was going to be about.
Who thinks he's being
The picture
sincere
was just painted.
and honest?
However, I had to look at it from the other point of view, not mine. I had to find the middle ground. And that was, their fears are genuine. It's a valid concern. And I want to make sure that's known, that I do understand what this is all about. I understand what their concern is. I take that wholeheartedly. And I am working on, and I will continue working on, making sure that that behavior doesn't ever get displayed again. That's not who I want to be. And during that relationship, I even made it aware. That's not who I want to be. I'll be the first to tell you that I don't like men that hit women. However, I sat there and did that myself. That's nothing that I can be proud of. If I sit, though, in my shame and guilt, what I learned in CBI, then I'll never grow. I have to learn what I did, why I did what I did, and work on the path from there. If I don't, and I keep cycling back, then I'm not moving forward. I'm reliving it. And if I keep putting myself down, saying I'm a monster, saying I'm whatever the case may be, then that's what I'm going to live. That's how I'm going to live.
He is a monster.
I feel awful.
Mm-hmm.
That's ultimately,
This is a board of parole
What
hearing
they
in
see.
Utah.
and as I stated, I can understand why they see what they see.
I mean,
Um,
I'm pretty sure he's getting brutalized in prison, unless they got him in a special
As
unit.
far as looking for them, no. Anytime the name would get brought up on the phone, I would shut it down and be like, look, I don't care. I don't want to know. It's not my concern. I don't want to know.
2022, March.
Um, there is absolutely zero justification for my behavior. I'm hoping that I will still have that opportunity, though, to show that as I sit here, I mean what I say. There was an officer in Logan, and I said that in the original hearing, that told her, guys like me do not change, and that I will end up killing her. An officer told her that. She
Paul
relayed that to me.
WAYMAN out of Utah.
I have all the intentions in the world of that officer knowing that he was wrong. That people like me can change.
Highly unlikely.
We get, I don't even know the right word.
What would be the perfect sentence for somebody like this?
But as I stated, how I felt for them and what I showed
WAYMAN.
were two different things.
WAYMAN.
And they have every single right to, hey, let's not put it lightly, hate me. Every single right.
Thank you for that 420.
And there's no way that I would want to take that from them. As far as pure evil,
10 years life.
I guess in some lights, definitely so. I know that there's a lot of good in me. I do know that. I would say that the moments that I reacted in a behavior that was not appropriate, that was pure evil. That was definitely me not showing up as the person I should have showed up as, a protector for them.
They sentenced him
I
to
do
2 to 30 years.
hope at some point
And he was sentenced 3 years ago. So I don't think that's enough time.
that they can forgive.
He should drink.
That's not what I'm expecting.
He should drink 30 beers a day
Um,
and then abuse his whole family. You guys should definitely check out this article here.
I cannot express to you enough on how I've felt since sentencing or prior to that to this point, the things that have gone through my head. And all of it's been the damage that I've done.
Be right, be.
And how remorseful or how much regret, shame, guilt that I carry still. Things that I'm still trying to work on. And if I ever say that I'm done and I'm good, then I've made a mistake. Because it takes a lifetime to work on yourself. You're never done. Never. And I don't care if it's me sitting here or if it's somebody on the outside. Every day we get to work on ourselves. Every day we get to wake up and make a choice on what we do. there's a lot that could be said. It really hurts to know that even after all this time, how much hurt they're in. Lane, she's, not wrong. He wanted a cowboy. He even wanted red Bronx. That's what I enjoy, the Bronx. He really wanted to do that. My dad was in the Navy. He wasn't a pilot, but I think after watching Top Gun once, twice, we all have dreams of being pilots. And because of my own behavior, I showed him exactly what. I gave him every reason to not want to be one, whether it be a cowboy or in the Navy, right? I mean, in the lifestyle that we're in, I didn't show him what the lifestyle we live. The lifestyle is treat people good, treat people fair. I used to go to church a lot. I lost my way. There was a long time that we didn't go to church. I didn't want to go. I felt judged. That was my own doing. Nobody was judging me. That was in my head. I brought embarrassment to my family. When I say my family, I mean them and the rest of the family. And I know that they felt isolated and trapped. That was not ever the intentions. Ever. And I wouldn't want anybody ever in that position again. Ever. I'm grateful this hearing did happen. I'm grateful that they all spoke, as much as all of it hurt to hear. It helps me walk away with a whole different light. Helps me focus more on things that I can continue to work on, to be a better person. If I ever have the opportunity, my daughter and I do not have a relationship. I haven't spoken to her. I've tried to reach out to her, but I haven't spoken to her. I did actually, I take that back. I spoke to her around Christmas time, very briefly. Prior to that, I hadn't spoken to her, I want to say in 6, 7, 8 months. I showed her I want to be the kind of man that my daughter looks at and sees the kind of man she deserves. Unfortunately, what she saw in me, I feel like it's the kind of man that she's with. I don't know for certain. I want her to see what she's worth. And the only way that I can do that is to get out and be the man that I should be, for her to go, yeah, he might have been a piece of crap at one point. That's who he's supposed to be. And if I can do that, like I said, and then the victim stated it, maybe they won't move past it. Maybe there's nothing I can ever do. And she has a right to feel like that I might try. I'm going to try for me. I deserve that. My daughter deserves it. And whether Miss Miller acknowledges it or not, by me going on the right path on the outside, it's a win for everybody. She talked about how giving me this power that they still have all this fear, that's not power to me. That's not power. For me, it's just about,
Yeah, I agree with you, Chacha.
like I told you, her knowing that the courage that she had put me here, helped put me here. My actions put me here.
Mm-hmm.
But coming forward, bringing all this to light, even with Lane, that took courage. Arizona took courage. Like bringing this all to light, I can sit here now and say, okay, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, tons of mistakes. I was an awful person for sure. But does that really say who I am?
Let me summarize where we are.
Yes,
with
sir.
this. So the board had your original hearing, granted parole date, which is the 28th. We have new information, new testimony today.
They granted.
I know getting a decision quickly is important for everyone, and so we'll make sure that we do that. We'll be thorough and thoughtful, but we'll get this decision made. All decisions of the board are by majority vote, at least 3 of the 5. So whether that date is rescinded, kept, or whether there's another rehearing or something else, that's a decision of the majority of the board, 3 out of 5. Do you have any questions for me before we end?
No, sir.
I do, if that's okay.
Okay, Ms. Miller?
Yes. So I just would like to ask that if Paul's parole date is maintained,
Mhm.
it's been told to me that I can request that he's put on GPS
Mm.
monitoring.
Yeah.
Yes, we can order
Okay.
that.
Additionally, I would just like to say that this is not about a lack of about a lack of forgiveness. That this is about us not wanting to invite this to continue. So this does not come from a place of anger or a place of wanting to get back at him. This is at a place
What
of
up, rah rah?
we want to protect ourselves, and he's the only thing that we need protection of from. So that's all. Just that request, and to be clear that this is because we truly believe that he will repeat his behaviors, if not on us, on someone else. But I have no doubt that it would be on our family. So that was all I would like to say. Thank you very much for hearing us. We appreciate the opportunity to have this hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. So, Mr. Wayman, any questions for me?
No. And as she stated that,
Shut up already.
the GPS monitor is needed, I'd be more than happy to wear one.
Okay. All right. So we'll send our decision to you in writing, Mr. Wayman. We also post those on our website. So people who are listening will have that, or victim advocates sometimes look at that and can help out.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. That concludes our hearing.
Thank you for your time.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and read up this article for those of you that want to know like what's written on here and what he was charged with. So this article is from back March 28th, 2022. But one thing before I start reading it, if you guys could do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I would highly appreciate it. Also, remember, subscribing is free 99, doesn't cost you anything. And also, if you can, share it. Sharing is caring, if you will. Let's see what we got right here. So Logan man sentenced to prison for abusing women and children for years. March 28th, 2022. Let me see right here. Thank you for the follow. So he had originally got found suitable to be paroled, but I guess Miss Miller ended up reaching out to the board of parole, letting them know that she never received like the notification that he was coming up for parole. So they ended up, I guess, making a special exception for her to be able to give out her statement. So he might not be getting out. So we'll be finding out in the next few weeks if he's gonna get out or not. This next gentleman that's coming up, I have no idea who it is because they didn't put their information today on the Board of Parole's website for Utah. Oh man, I just got a notification from TikTok. I'm about to end up in the TikTok jail. Anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and continue this hearing on YouTube. If you want to continue listening to it, check us out at Collect Call From. I try to go on daily, Monday through Friday. At Collect Call From on YouTube. I'll go ahead and put it
Got
up
a
on the
thumbs
screen
up.
right now. And
Good afternoon. I'm Greg Johnson, a member of the Board of Pardons and Parole.
and with that,
And are you Tyler James Bergen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, offender number 171229.
Yes.
Okay, obviously we're on video today. You just mentioned maybe not being able to hear very
If
well.
you don't look
If
Chinese,
that
get
continues to be a problem, please let us know. But hopefully it's working much better now.
It is. Thank you.
Okay. And I'll just note for the record, we have Jan Ferris from the state and Kate Conyers is your defense attorney.
did anybody
And
catch
it
this
looks like
guy's
Agent
name?
McDonald from the state as well. Counsel, are there any preliminary matters?
Yes, so we, in speaking with Mr. Bergen, it sounds like there are two
Bergen.
allegations he already admitted to or pled no contest. We are pleading no contest to the remaining 4 allegations. That would be endangerment. We want to make sure that it's worded properly, but and then the counts of
Thank you,
possession of
Lugo.
controlled substance, and then
Appreciate it.
also tampering with evidence. We need to make sure that they're amended to technicals.
Thank you, Honda.
As it seems like this wasn't filed in court, hence the evidentiary hearing. So we want
Thank
to
you,
amend
Felicia.
so that they're technicals.
And that's all 5 of them?
Yes. I thought
Okay.
there were 4. Let me count that again. Let me just double check that.
Number 5, possession or use of drug paraphernalia?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Did anybody catch his name?
So, and again, no contest on those.
I didn't catch
So
his
we
name.
had told
Alright.
Mr. Ferris that in advance so that he didn't need to bring
Ferris,
in
Mr. Ferris.
that unit so that we're taking responsibility and no need for evidentiary hearing. We're expecting to move on to disposition.
Welcome,
Okay,
Tabitha.
sounds good. And I apologize that we were running late. We need to take as much time as we need with everyone, and that includes you, Mr. Bergen. We'll
Thank
make
you,
sure you
Lisa.
get as much time as you need today as well. All right. Mr. Bergen,
Ferris.
would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth and be accurate in today's proceeding?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You can put your hand down. Did you receive at least 7 days' notice of this hearing?
I did.
Okay. And did you receive your disclosure, your blue packet?
I did.
Okay. Do you have any questions or concerns about disclosure?
I don't.
And have you had enough time to meet with your attorney?
Yes.
Okay. Do you feel like you're prepared to go forward today?
I do.
All right. So there's been a proposed settlement, which is these be amended to technicals and that you're going to plead no contest to them. If we go ahead with that, then you're giving up the right to the evidentiary hearing, which would have been today, where you would have had the right to hear and cross-examine witnesses through your attorney, the right to speak or not speak on your own behalf and to present your own evidence. You're giving up those rights if we proceed with the settlement today.
Thank you, Brian.
And also, just so you're aware, I'm not indicating the board would or wouldn't hold you this long, but the board does have jurisdiction up until July 6th of 2026. So bearing those rights in mind that you're giving up, are you willing to proceed with this settlement?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any questions for me before we start?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to read those allegations just to make sure we get them clear. And at least according to my record, we only had denials on all of them, not a prior no contest. So I'll be asking on each one of them what your plea is. So, Mr. Bergen, allegation number 1, by having committed or having been convicted of a new criminal offense or violated a court order, endangerment of a child or elder adult, as a
That's all
technical,
bad.
so we're amending that to as a technical violation or by having associated with a person involved in criminal activity on or about September 10th, 2024 in violation of the parole agreement. Do you admit, deny, or plead no contest?
No contest.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Allegation number 2, by having committed or by having been convicted of a new criminal offense or violated a court order, possession of a controlled substance, that's amended as a technical violation, or by having associated with a person involved in criminal activity on or about September 10th, 2024, in violation of the parole agreement. Do you admit, deny, or plead no contest?
No contest.
Okay. Allegation number 3, by having committed or by having been convicted of a new criminal offense or violated a court order, possession of a controlled substance as a technical violation, or by having associated with a person involved in criminal activity on or about September 10th, 2024, in violation of the parole agreement. Do you admit, deny, or plead no contest?
No contest.
Okay. Allegation number 4, by having committed or by having been convicted of a new criminal offense or violated a court order, tampering with evidence, or by having associated with a person involved in criminal activity on or about September 10th, 2024, in violation of the parole agreement. Do you admit, deny, or plead no contest?
No contest.
And that's as a technical. Allegation number 5, by having committed or by having been convicted of a new criminal offense or violated a court order, use or possession of drug paraphernalia as a technical violation, by having associated with a person involved in criminal activity on or about September 10th, 2024, in violation of the parole agreement. Do you admit, deny, or plead no contest?
No contest.
Okay. All right. So from here, Mr. Bergen, I have some questions for you about things that have happened since you came back to prison, kind of how you've been doing and release plans from there. We'll also have a chance to hear from the state and from your attorney, and then we'll come back to you for the final word. Okay, Mr. Bergen?
Yes.
Okay. And before we start that, counsel, is there any information you want to supplement about those allegations?
No, they weren't filed, but no, we don't have any additional information other than that.
Okay. Mr. Ferris?
Nothing to supplement the allegations, thanks.
Okay. So, Mr. Bergen, going back
Damn,
to
Tyler.
when you were released on parole, so you'd been out for a little while, almost a year. How do you think things were going during that year?
I think they were going well. I was working full time. I was doing my, the voc rehab. I was setting up for school. I was starting school at the beginning of this year, actually. I was meeting regularly with my parole officer. I did have an issue where I went and my family was concerned. They'd contact my parole officer and I had admitted to relapse. I had then went and I took the steps to check myself into a detox center and did the treatment, and I went and reevaluated my substance abuse. I was doing one-on-ones with a therapist every week, intense one-on-ones. After that point, I was continuing to check in with my PO and give him clean drug tests, do my treatment, pay my my fines or fees, and continue to work every day. And I was doing really well. And about 2 weeks before I got picked up, I kind of had some things with my family that had happened that I let get to me. And I'm not making excuses. This is just what had happened. And I found myself with the wrong people and back here in prison. So my PO was working great with me, was very understanding. I don't have any complaints about my parole officer or the way he conducted his supervision against me, and I messed up.
Okay. So, I mean, I understand sometimes things happen with family, and you talked about being back with the wrong people. Going forward, how do you think you could manage those things or avoid those situations?
I don't think I'll ever avoid situations coming up in my life to what we all go through, but it's as far as dealing with them more successfully. My PO had thought it was a good idea because my initial plan was to be in sober living, and I procrastinated on that. I think that's something that I really need to utilize, and I actually have it set up to do whenever I am able to leave the prison. I think it was just a little bit too much, too fast, and I kind of didn't really use those tools and gain those tools that I needed to continue, dealing with situations that occur in life. And this whole experience has been very devastating. It's been very hard. It's been very hard for my family. I am in constant contact with them and in good standing with them. But we all agree, and I agree especially, that I should go to a sober living when I leave here, and that's treatment and sober living, whether I'm on parole or I'm not. That's my plan. I don't know if you got the letter, but that is my plan, to do that, because I don't want to come back here anymore. I want to be able to do my school, do my work, and move on with my life.
Okay. What do you want to accomplish with school?
I was the electrician here in the prison for a little over 2 years, and my dad's an electrical contractor. I'm a certified welder, but I want to do electrical. So I actually have Voc Rehab already ready to pay for my tuition at Mountain Land Tech. Now, however, that was starting this January, so that's going to change. But I'm going to get my credentials for that so I can continue to be a general foreman and move up the ladder there. So that's something I do want to pursue.
Okay. And I'll note that you don't have any disciplinary incidents since you've been back. So that's a good thing. Appreciate that. How do you think you've been doing in prison?
I think I've been doing the best I can. I usually do pretty well when I'm in, obviously, a structured environment. I try to put myself in classes and get a job and use my time wisely and don't fall into any of the nonsense that goes on around here. I was fortunate enough to make it up to Strive and continue and participate in that. I've got my health, been working out regularly, going to class, just completed, improving or better communication. I do this, the Strive criteria, and I'm about to get a job. So.
Okay, good. All right. And again, we'll come back to you for the final word, Mr. Bergen. But right now, let's go to the state. Mr. Ferris?
I think Agent McDonald would be in the best position to make a recommendation going forward, and the state would make his recommendation ours.
Okay. Agent McDonald?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So, moving forward, with what Tyler said, Tyler was actually quite great to supervise.
I'm supposed to hear.
Mr. Bergen, are you having trouble hearing that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything Mr. McDonald had just said. I don't know if I was supposed to or.
Yeah. Yeah, we want you to hear that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't hear anything. It was muted or,
What about now? Are you able to hear
yes.
there, Tyler? Okay. So Tyler was actually really easy to supervise. He was great. He was very compliant, and like a lot of them, he had some roadblocks, and we discussed those roadblocks. He did a good job of keeping contact with me. My big concern for him is having that ability to stay away from those contacts. And this is something that we had talked about in the office is finding the right companions that's going to prevent him from being put in a rock and a hard spot and making a decision that's going to land him back in prison. And so I do heavily support the sober living. That's something we had talked about in the past. And the thing that Tyler has that a lot of people don't when they come out of prison is he's got a really strong support system with his family. I've spent a lot of time speaking with his family. He has got an incredible support system there. But at the same time, they've established boundaries, which is good and healthy. And so I think, upon, if Tyler is granted a parole on this one because his jurisdiction runs out in 2026, he's just got to walk that line of being able to make that decision. And I don't know if the treatment is out in the community that's going to help him and give him those tools to be able to say, hey, I'm not gonna go down this path, or if that's something in prison. Either way, in prison, you're making the contacts. In treatment, you've got the same contacts. You're meeting the same people, and so there's a little bit of juggle with that. But as far as our recommendations on these ones, that I think he could be successful on parole. I really do, and he was successful for a very long time. And so it almost becomes something maybe that is a challenge to me to put in a challenge to him to, hey, we're gonna work harder about staying away from these contacts. And we did. Like, that was kind of our big case action plan, was staying away from contacts, and that essentially is what led him back, was those companions. So as far as the recommendation, I don't know if it's going to change his outcome a whole lot, whether he does 6 more months in prison and paroles, or expirates out of prison in 2026. Whatever it is, he just needs to have that ability to be strong when he's around those contacts, those people, because he kind of, that's been Tyler's kind of his history. Kind of reaches, or someone will reach out to him, and just being able to establish those boundaries. We've got to figure out how to do that, whether that happens there in prison, through classes, or in the community. I don't know that makes so much of a difference, but we just, it's something that Tyler just has to do.
All right. Thank you, Agent. Ms. Con.
Yes, what I'd ask for is, I appreciate that Mr. Bergen did take responsibility here, and it sounds like he's working really hard on making some changes in his life. It does sound like he has a drug problem that he needs to address, and I think sober living would help him do that. So I would ask for 180 days with credit for all the time he's served in custody, and then a release as soon as that is available at an appropriate sober living setting, so that he can get that help. And fortunately, I'm thrilled to hear that he has a really supportive family group as well. That's really unique, and happy for him. And you can do this, Mr. Bergen. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Conyers. So, Mr. Bergen, it does sound like you've got some strengths going for you, and there have been times that you've done very well, including back in prison. You're doing well right now. So it does sound like you can succeed. Any final comments or things that you would like to say?
I also agree with what Mr. McDonald has said as well. The time I expirate next year and then doing my parole violation, is there going to be that much of a difference? However, I feel like I owe it to myself to successfully complete parole and show that I can do it.
What do you guys think? For me, personally, I'll let this guy go opposed to the first dude that came in. That first
That I
guy was a
can
real
do
piece
it
of
and I want to
trash.
do it. And it's been a long road. It's been very hard. A lot of tough life lessons, but as far as sober living, I actually have gone beyond that. It's actually going to be a 90-day inpatient treatment out there and then transitioning into sober living. I don't know if that would help the Board of Pardons as well as my AP&P agent feel about having me have another shot out on parole and showing that I can do it. I believe I can. I believe I will. However, I respect the board's decision no matter what, and I thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bergen. So I think you probably all know how we work. It'll take a few days or a week or so to make a decision. We'll post that on our website. We'll send you a copy in the mail, Mr. Bergen. Do you have any questions for me before we end?
I don't, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That concludes our hearing.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Hey. So, that's it. That was the end of this hearing here. They just cut it off. But, the other guy, man, he just kept on talking and he just wouldn't shut up. Like, shut up already. Like, let's go on to the next. I mean, you did what you did. You said what you said. And let the board of parole make their decision, which apparently they had already made before, up until the victim, reached out to them, and she was luckily able to get another hearing going. So I'm not sure if I haven't seen a case like that before, where the board take their date away, while hearing the victim. But we'll be finding out in the next few weeks or so. But man, you could definitely hear in their voice, they were terrified. I think the most what word am I looking for here? The one, probably the one I felt worse to hear was the young girl. When she was talking about her whole experience and whatnot, and you could hear it in her voice. She was definitely going through it. Reliving those moments, those traumatic moments that monster put them through. It wasn't just the mom. It was the mom and those two children there. They sounded like they're a little bit older now, and that's pretty I would say outrageous that he's up for parole. Just a few years in. He was sentenced in 2022. We're 2025 now, and he was sentenced 2 to 30 years. That doesn't even make any sense, sense to me, that he could be let out after such a short amount of time. He definitely needs to work on himself. He does need some professional help. And she had also mentioned that he was already going through therapy, when they met each other, and she was even going to some of those classes with him. So, surprising that she would have stuck it out that long. Or even knowing, early on in the relationship that he had some issues, but sometimes love will make you do some things that you normally wouldn't do. Let me see some of these. Let me see some of the comments over here. Let me see. For those of you that jumped over from TikTok, I really appreciate you guys. I've been trying to get my numbers up on YouTube. It's a little bit hard, to draw people in. I do these streams normally Monday through Friday on a daily basis. from different states. Utah is probably one of the more popular ones. Connecticut. I normally start pretty early in the morning, so if you're like Pacific Standard Time, I normally start about 6 a.m. and then I go through through the afternoon. But some of the states, if you're interested in knowing what states I do, we do Utah, Connecticut, Iowa. What is this one here? Pennsylvania, Ohio, Vermont, Minnesota, Oregon. Oregon, I just got kicked out of last week. They kicked me out of a hearing. They said I was disrupting it. I'm not sure how they figured that out. We've done Illinois. Sometimes in the evenings, I'll do Pima County Court, which is in Arizona. I've done Louisiana in the past, also Oklahoma. And in California, we were able to do the in-bank hearings, which happen once a month. And I think we have an in-bank hearing coming up next month. We do phone calls with incarcerated individuals. We do video visits. And it's just pretty much, assorted, different types of streams when it comes to, incarceration. And let me see some of these comments over here. We got, let me see, Felicia was laughing out loud. Honda wrote amen. Let me see what else we got here. Lugo writes he needs to stop talking. They want to release him, laughing out loud. Mama Bear, what's the website to follow to see if he gets out or not? So for that one, you would have to go to the Utah Board of Parole Hearings. And his name and his inmate number is located on this video. If you go to the description, you would just type that in, and it would give you an updated information on his status, whether he's on a. Because right now I'm assuming that he's granted parole, but if it changes, then they'll go ahead and update it. I'm hoping that answers your question. And then let me see here. Honda writes, yeah, that was sad. Definitely 2 to 30 years. After 2, he's able to get up and go. And I'm not sure if that was his first time, going in front of the parole board. Besides the one that was just, took place. Let me see. Honda, I'm in Ohio. Felicia's in Oregon. Got you. Let me see here. I'm in Utah. Lynn, I appreciate you streaming these. Highly appreciate it. I'm glad, there's some of you that are interested in watching these. If there wasn't a interest, then I wouldn't be doing them, but apparently there is. Felicia writes, do you show court hearings from Washington State? From Washington? No, the only state that I've done so far is what is it? Arizona. I think I've looked at Washington State. I think they do offer them online, but I haven't done any. But if you have any suggestions, I'll be more than happy, to look into it and see, how that works out. Hey, Mama Bear writes, what about the DV guy? Do you, yeah, I got it on the description, but I'll go ahead and add it here into the chat just in case anybody wants that information. I'll put down his whole full name and his inmate number here. Normally, if you go to the descriptions, I'll try to get any articles that I'm able to find. And it with all, information as far as, name, full name, and inmate number, and any articles. Just in case you guys would like to, follow up and do a little research on your own, then that information, I'll put it there to, help you guys out and have it a lot easier to access it, opposed to, you guys have to dig through the internet. So let me see. We just hit 1 o'clock right now. So I got to start getting ready. I got to head on out. I got to go ahead and pick up my daughter. But let me see these last comments here. I was stabbed in my neck and the defendant only got 6 months. She was given a rider. Damn, that's crazy. In the neck, man. Luckily, hopefully you didn't lose any mobility, because when you think about getting injured on your neck, the first thing that comes to mind is, man, your spinal cord. If even nicking it could disconnect a lot of tendons and nerves and whatnot. Let me see here. Eleanor wrote, this has been so interesting from the UK. That's right. Hey man, I'm glad. I'm not sure how you guys found the stream, but I highly appreciate it. Whatever, the algorithm was, pushing out. Highly appreciate it. Highly appreciate the algorithm. Let me see. Damn, man, that's tough. That's tough. But yeah, so it's getting a little bit later in the day for me right now. I gotta get ready to go pick up my daughter from school. She almost had got my heart and lung. Damn. Sheesh. Well, I'm glad you're still here. You know, luckily she didn't get you. But yeah. So, but I might be on later on. If not, then definitely look out in the morning. Set up your alerts and whatnot. And I do appreciate you guys for joining and subscribing. Highly appreciated. But I'm going to cut the stream. And like I said around here, life's like a candle. Once you blow it out, it's lights out. And with that, I am out. And check out my other content. We got tons and tons of content, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube. Hours of fun.